The opinions made in this video do not necessarily coincide with that of Imaginary Goddess, or anyone else for that matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ben Wheeler, the Mercenary King, with another State of Play. Today I'll be focusing on the 4 promos from Bermuda. The pre-release, and the 3 that come from each box. You get one of these 3 randomly. I'll also be showing off a Grade 3 based Tachi deck using Surprise Battle Racks. Also, I will be focusing on 3 more Legion. One that's just been released that's been fantastic and really been wowing the crowds I run in. As well as, the OTT Legion, which I think deserves a little bit more love and attention, especially with the combo. And the Riviere Legion, which, has a special place in the heart of a lot of people. Riviere is one of the main aces that isn't Pacifica, isn't, Duo or Prism, that really, sort of took off and had a personality of its own, deck-wise anyway. But here's to the 4 promos. The first one is a Grade 1. She came in with the pre-release. She is Apprentice Idol Karen, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. When this unit is returned to hand from Rearguard Circle, if you have a Bermuda Triangle Vanguard, you may pay the cost if you do draw a card. First off, I gotta say, I don't think any any other clan really does the return stuff to hand like Bermuda does. And so I've never really understood that restriction. All of them have them in some way or other. But hey, whatever. Maybe it was back in the day when Flores was a rearguard. Anyway, she's really good. She works well with Rio and Kareen, as well as a few other cards that are Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 1, draw a card. She prevents too much minusing of the deck, and she will be introduced into my deck eventually. Unfortunately, due to resource management, I cannot make it for a State of Play in any recent time, but hey, they'll come. It'll come. The second one is a Cross Ride for Coral. She was a sleeper hit, not because her card was good. Her card was not good. It was Counterblast 2, return something to hand, or was it 2 things? It was certainly one thing. Return one thing to hand and give her plus 5k. No. She had a ride chain attached to her, and that was good, and that saved her from being super terrible. But she never really had the chutzpah to be an S-class deck. And this isn't S-class at all. She is a, I think B, maybe low A. Anyway, her ability is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. There's a lot of Counterblast 1, Soul Blasts going around, and the problem with that is that if you don't have proper soul management with Kareens, Rios, Felucas, Tits McGee, you really can't utilize the powers in their proper way, and you could eventually run out of resources, which is just bad. Fortunately, she pays for her own soul, but you could lose a cross ride, so you have to pay it off. Pay the cost, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your Bermuda Triangle Rearguards, return it to hand. This unit gets plus 3k until end of turn. So in other words, if you have the cross ride available to her, she becomes 17k by herself, which hits 24k with the 7k booster, which is numbers. 6k with the 6k, but that's not important. 23k with the 6k, but that's not as important, because she's 11k base. You may choose up to 1 card with Coral in its name. In other words, any of the members of the ride chain plus Coral Assault from Aquaforce, funnily enough, from your hand and put it into your soul. If you do, draw 2 cards. This ability can't be used again. This ability is better. I'm not gonna. It still doesn't make me want to play it. Sure, I've got the promo, but I'm probably gonna trade it off for some Alks or Pacificas because it's worth twice. It's worth twice an Alk and 1 and a bit of a Pacifica, which is, I don't know. I don't know what this world's coming to anymore. Break Ride, Planet Idol Pacifica. She is for Pacifica is becoming an archetype in its own right. Not the same sort of deal as, Prism or Duo, but they've got their own 12k attackers, their own 10k attackers, cards that work off of Pacificas, as well as, they've got their own deck and playstyle. And she really works with the Cross Ride for Pacifica that came out in, I want to say, Dazzling Divas. That was the second one anyway. The Cross Ride's ability was Counterblast 3, return 2 Bermudas to hand, place 1 from the deck into the field. And that allowed for an extra attack, somewhere to put all your triggers. That could become really scary at the same time. It provided a little bit more hand advantage. And if you really handled it right, you could get, and more than enough to survive your turn and give you advantage into the next one. But she really takes the cake. When the Bermuda Triangle rides this unit, choose your Vanguard plus 10k, usual. Her ability, though, is the important bit. When another Bermuda Triangle when other Bermuda Triangle units are returned to your hand from rear circle, choose up to 1 Bermuda Triangle, call it R. Shuffle your deck. This ability can't be used until end of turn. In other words, you use her ability, Counterblast 3, you pull 2 instead. Yes, that's right. So in other words, you get another full column. I mean a full column, not just like an 11k attacker. And that's fantastic. If you play your cards right and you use White Crystal, which is a duo that came out recently, she is, when it's returned to from field to hand, I believe it's Soul Charge 1? Soul Blast 1? One of the two. I'm sorry, I'm working off of memory here. And unflip a damage. And that's good. And I don't really know how I'll use her, but I'll certainly use her in the days ahead. She also has a secondary ability. From the Soul, Counterblast 1, Tues 1, Top Idol Pacifica. In other words, the base for the Cross Ride. From your rearguard circle, put it into Soul. Put this unit in your hand. Choose one of your Bermuda Triangle rearguards and return it to your hand. In other words, you do it right, and let's say you don't have the Counterblast to do it. You can still do it off with her. At least if you have at least 1 Counterblast. Excuse me. And all of a sudden you replace a card in your hand with her. She can be used as an attacker. And you can potentially get some more advantage by returning something in hand for a plus. Or a benefit. In some way. Alk is a bit more creative. You can use her with a lot of things. Limit Break 4. At the end of battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. You may choose a grade 3 and ride it from hand and ride it as tapped. If you do, choose Costume Idol Alk from Soul, put it in the hand, draw a card. That works great. There's a lot of combos, especially with break rides, but also cards like Lena and a few other things, especially if you're not running a sand deck, you're running a crit deck, or any number of other things, really. But the problem is that end of battle. And so you really have to time out your things just right. Her second ability, Soul Blast 1, when placed on Vanguard, choose 1 Bermuda rearguard, return to hand, and this unit gets plus 5k. Turns her into a 16k attacker for a Soul Blast. Good. Again, I want to say that there's a lot more Soul Blasting in Bermuda now, whereas before there was a lot of Soul Charging, and you just got to be careful. Alright, just making sure I've got it all spaced out. Let's see here. Okay, so magic trick, jazz hands. Alright, so let's talk about the Tachi deck. Tachikaze is going to get pretty awesome in set 17. Not going to lie to you. They've got a couple of Legion that aren't bad. The Rare Legion is actually immensely better than the Double Rare Legion. And I'm sort of surprised that they do it because of the strategy of Tachikaze. Tachikaze has always been minusing yourself for, the extra bit of damage. We have reserves. And so the best Tachikaze decks are the ones that deal with those minuses in ways that gain them the most pluses. The reason why Tyranno Legend never really shot off as much as it did was because it minused itself too much for something that could be just perfect guarded. And I know the argument, you never guarantee a perfect guard. But with Quintet Walls, you only need 1 card in hand, and all of a sudden you've got a 20k shield, 35k against probably a 26k if the guy's smart, double crit. And that's never good odds for a deck that minuses itself so much. Especially for surviving the next turn and replacing the field. One of the big fallacies of Vanguard has been the Dark Rex Spino Driver. I've seen a lot of people make them, and they don't work because it's -5 for 4 cards from hand, not counting the usual Twin Drive. So you lose 5 cards, you gain 6. as opposed to cards that, let's say a restander like Laurel. You lose pressure, but you gain cards. And the pressure is actually much more intense because likely you're dealing with a 24k crit 3 Dayusha with a hard-on for your exposed bottom, probably. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Those turns, when you've like let Dayusha or Daikaiser or whoever the heck stand, it's like, no. Done. You win. No, not facing it. And a lot of people, they probably don't know what I'm talking about because they've never fought a great Daikaiser deck. Well, let me tell you, those few bold, beautiful people exist. And you should be afraid. Now, with a Fire Collection, which I'm going to cover in later State of Plays, it's going to be pretty great. But Tachikaze is one of those unloved clans. Not Mega Colony unloved. Mega Colony is the red-headed stepchild kept under the stairs like Harry Potter. No, this is sort of like kept out into the yard, and they just don't care about it because their parents are drunk. Kagero is drunk. Let's not kid ourselves. Being Perdition Dragon, geez. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. Alright, so let's talk about the mitigation of the pluses of the minuses. Triggers first, 12 crit, 4 heal. Why? Because you want that pressure. You know it's all about them crits, no trouble. Alright, no draws. Anyway. And the reason why I run so much pressure is because of the earliness, the 10k shields, and the fact that if I run Spino Driver and Dark Rex correctly, I don't need to draw. In other words, I draw 2 from Spino Driver, and I get another Twin Drive from Dark Rex. If I do it right, if I do Dark Rex right, I only lose 1, maybe 2 cards at worst. If I'm losing 3 cards, it's really bad, or more. So starter, Dragon Egg. Best starter in Tachikaze so far. There might be something in set 17, I just haven't noticed it. But he's still got Counterblast 1 when this unit is retired from rearguard. And you have a Tachikaze Vanguard. You may pay the cost if you do return this to hand. In other words, they hit it with, what is his name? The Narukami have Linshu. Hit him with Linshu, dies, Counterblast 1, into hand. Any number of things, really. All of a sudden, he's a 10k shield that you have right when you need him. And you will have him when you need him, because, you know, he's the sort of the plus that never quits. The starter that never quits. Let's talk about grade 1s. Running fewer grade 1s in this build than I usually do. Let's put them over here. Sonic Noah. There's a couple cards that just need that 8k to hit 21, and or 31 or 41 or 51, and he really helps that out. Multiple crits. That's all I really say about him. I'm running him a 1 of, because if I run him, that means I've stopped minusing myself for pluses, and now I'm just going for broke, and I'm going for your exposed underbelly. The other cards in the set are 3 Beam Taros. They're from set 8. Set 8 was pretty great. It introduced Dark Rex and a few other things, which was really the last great hope for generic Tachikaze. During your battle phase, when this unit is put into the drop zone from R, if you choose one of your Tachikaze and that unit gets plus 3k. In other words, you hit Dark Rex, you have 2 of these, you eat 2 of these, give him plus 6k. All of a sudden he's hitting for 16k for another Vanguard attack. That's at least 2 cards from hand if they don't want to get 1 pass. If they 1 pass you and you make it, good on them, you know. But you've got 4 cards in hand from the double twin drive. 4 perfect shields. Thinking about running a quintet wall or 2 when set 17 comes out, but set 17 isn't out, so we run 4 perfect walls. Perfect shields, excuse me. Quintet walls are a bit of a thing for me. I don't really know how I feel about them. Some are good, some are bad. You really have to decide for yourself. And you really have to be careful because of how decks work and decks minus yourselves. Workhorse of the deck, Skype Tarot, Counterblast 1, Drop Zone from Rearguard Circle, Tachikaze Vanguard, return it to hand. In other words, he makes, as long as you have one one starter and one of him, you are golden for this deck. No, stop the arguments. You know, you have got your God Hand. Why? Because the Break Ride becomes Counterblast 2 plus 2, no minuses. Because these two return to hand rather than get eaten permanently by the Break Ride. There is a time that when you should probably stop saving them, and that's for late in the game when you're pushing for kill. Let's see here. These are the grade 2s. This is a grade 1 version of Beam Tarot / Tarot, and it's plus 3k. You know, you can run these guys in Raptor Captain builds, and they're pretty great, because you eat them for Raptor Captain for Counterblast 1, plus 16 to Vanguard, and then plus another 6k because both their abilities go off. Giving Raptor Colonel plus 22k, turning him to 33k by himself. Break Ride Raptor Colonel, let's see, what were the numbers? 43k, crit 2, plus a Sonic Noah, that's 51k, crit 2. Great stuff. I run Cannon Fire Dragon, Cannon Gear. Really, I have him in the name because the name's so cool. Also because he starts helping give you that early defense. Tachikaze, you don't want to ramp up your damage all the way to the top to start with. You want to sort of let it lie a bit, and then once it's time to put pressure on your Vanguard, start break riding. What is his name? Start break riding the Break Ride anyway on top of each other, so that they have to constantly perfect guard, because you're running 12 crits, and the Break Ride gets a natural crit. These guys are here because you have hard time hitting numbers. Whereas this one is just 17k to kill something. By the way, he can kill himself if there's nothing else to target. This with Skype hits 16k. Sorry, yes. Yes, Skype hits 16k, and that's good numbers. Even in a cross-ride meta, they won't hit cross-ride automatically, and so you have that time when you can, you know, rely on 16ks. Let's see. By the way, these are 11ks, that's why I use them. If they weren't 11ks, I would not use them. They hit 17k turn 2, well, your turn 2, excuse me, guaranteed, because when they're boosted, excuse me, on the Vanguard circle. And that's good as well, because it provides a little bit more pressure than the opponent might want to face, and they might have to guard a little bit more to resist it. Alright, so let's talk about grade 3s. Let's see here. Oop. There we go. So, for Break Ride. The Break Ride should be used in every Tachikaze deck. Raptor Colonel, well, not Deathrex Starkrex. Deathrex Starkrex has a bit of a, you know, it has a fond place in my heart. But sadly, it's not powerful enough that I want right now. People are allowing themselves, you know, to take the damage early. So Deathrex doesn't really pull out any early guard. Legion comes out, he might be useful again, especially before they have their own legions in Magma Armor and Tyrannoquake. But hey. Break Ride's ability. Choose 2 Tachikaze rear guards and retire them. In other words, eat these 2. Sonic Noah. I'm sorry, no. Dragon Egg and Skype Tarot. Eat them. Counterblast 2, return the hand. Done. When Tachikaze rides this unit, you may pay the cost. Eat 2. Draw 2 cards. Choose your Vanguard, and he gets plus 10k plus a crit. One of the best in the game. A lot of, like, it's not even that it perfectly handles the sort of Tachikaze spirit, it does. It's the fact that it gives a plus 2 to a deck that's all about the mitigation of minuses, or the benefiting of those minuses. Let's say you don't have, let's say they killed permanently Dragon Egg and Skype Tarot somehow. Well, guess what? You have Beam Tarot and Slash Tarot. Give plus 6k to your Vanguard. All of a sudden, let's say it's Ravenous Dragon Battle Rex. He is a, and let's say we put Sonic Noah behind him. Break Rides, plus 10k plus a crit. By himself, he's 20 crit 2. With a booster, the Sonic Noah, he's 31 crit 2. And then there's his ability, which I'll cover in a second. The real benefit of Tachikaze comes out of a break riding over break riding. It does get expensive with counterblasts. You can run Vacuum Mammoth, but you also have to run these guys, which is Ancient Dragon Dino Dial. Put it into the Soul, Tachikaze Vanguard, unflip a damage. And basically, when you eat something, leave that spot clear. Use Dino Dial to unflip a damage, and you've got at least 3 break rides possible if you do it right. Battle Rex. He's going to be the ace of the deck. Really, he's the background ace. You know, the break ride, and he's doing the break ride stuff. But this is your kill card. This card not so much, but for different reasons. When this unit drive checks at grade 3, choose one of your rear guards and retire it. This unit gets plus 10k until end of battle. You have to do it. Wait, yeah. There's no may about it, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, if you do it right, they've already exhausted their perfect shields handling this guy, and they're in a place where they can't let another double crit hit, even if they do. Ooh. My sun shield nearly went out. Okay. Happens. It also gets plus 3k when it's boosted by a Tachikaze. So, you know, even Dragon Egg boosting is fine. If you can eat your own booster with this card, which is great. Because it's after it, it's when the drive check hits. It's already boosted technically, so it can disappear. Dark Rex, he is the sort of backup. Background singer and all that jazz. Bind Zone. By the way, if you can put this card into the Bind Zone and choose a Tachikaze plus 3k. Do it right, you can give something plus 9k or more. And maybe even beyond that, you know, if you hit the right numbers. Let's see here. Just a second. Oh yeah, Beam Tarot. Can only be used in the battle phase. Is it the same for Slash Tarot? Yep. So, can't be used, sorry, I misspoke earlier. Can't be used with Beam Tarot or Slash Tarot. But that's okay, because they can be used for him, and they can be used for him. And that's the case, don't eat Beam Tarot and Slash Tarot with this guy unless you can't avoid it. Because you would rather have a 10k booster combo. Which will lead to more pluses later on, but more minuses early. In the sense that you can break through guard easier. Anyway, from the Bind Zone, choose 3 Tachikaze rear guards and retire them. That's steep, but here's what you get. At the beginning of the closed step of battle, that your grade 3 or greater Tachikaze Vanguard attacked. In other words, he can ride over a grade 4 if they ever get one. If this card did not hit during that battle, you may pay the cost. If you do, ride this card. In other words, break ride, boom, joo. This doesn't hit. This guy rides over him, eats 3, and then swings again. It's fantastic. It's a really solid card. It created a pretty strong deck in the sense of Deathrex, because Deathrex didn't do much by itself, because you didn't have to pay for Deathrex unless you hit something. But really, I think someday this might be even useful in Legion. But I haven't figured out his sort of Legion thing on it yet. By the way, the reason why there's more grade 3s than usual, one more, same as my Asura Immortal build, but differently, is because this guy runs off of grade 3s. And even if this deck does run off of, you know, grade 3 decks tend to be a little bit weaker, you still have to manage it properly. And I think this deck really works out. Haven't really made any videos with this particular deck, but there are videos of my previous decks otherwise. Right, so might see 1 or 2 in the future. So let's see here. Alright, time to talk about 3 legions. Legions are the future of Vanguard. Which is kind of annoying in some ways, but not really in others. There's like many different currents in Vanguard that sort of lead up one to another. Legion was tested with, not tested like as in they made Legion, but more like the ideas of cards in the soul or, you know, on the field, comboing with one another in fairly obvious ways, like Crimson Beast Tamer, Perla, was precipitated, and they discovered it wasn't OP enough. Oh, that's some gallows humor for Cardfight. But instead, what we get is some really great cards that work off of cards that have previously existed. Let's face it, Alfred hasn't stood the ages. Neither has Riviere, even though she's a bit better than some. And Amaterasu as well, even though she's a bit better than some and got a cross ride out of it. They didn't stand the test of time, even though they were important. You might argue with Riviere a bit, but let's face it, she was a triple rare in a set, and she was legitimately played. So, I think I saw her top in a few tournaments too. So, she deserves it as much as everyone else. So let's talk about, I'm going to work my way up to Easer, who's just fantastic. Let's talk about Orihime. Ohirume, excuse me. Ohirume, the problem with her and her decks is that there aren't any OTT Legion support cards that aren't Battle Sisters. And Battle Sisters and Divination are sometimes their own thing. You can combine them up when you can do that with Monica and a few others. But she really takes the cake here. And nobody does it better than a goddess. So, and I don't mean the Genesis people. Alright, so Legion 2,000, 20,000, 1,000, 21,000. It's like 330. Drives me crazy. With CEO Amaterasu. For those who don't know, CEO was look at the top card. Sorry, Soul Charge 1, look at the top card, put it at the bottom or the top. So in other words, you know what, that'll come in a bit. If you have 4 or more cards, she gets plus 4K, and I'm just working on memory here. So if I'm mistaken, please, I'll print a retraction. I'll talk about it later in the YouTube comments. Let's see, Soul Charge 1, 4 cards or more, plus 4K. Oh, right, and the Mega Blast. Mega Blast is the most expensive ability in Vanguard, bar none. Yatagarasu has more individual Soul Blasts, but nothing is more Counter Blast than the Mega Blast. Mega Blast is 5, Counter Blast 5, and Soul Blast 8. Let's see. I think, if I recall correctly, Amaterasu was draw a certain number of cards based on either rear guards or 5 cards, and that was on hit. So in other words, you hit with her, you Mega Blast, all of a sudden your day is ruined because your opponent has, all of your hand, has like 5 cards in hand, and he's starting to hit his stack because CEO was most commonly paired with. What was her name? Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi's pretty great. And I'll talk about her some other day if she ever gets a Legion. She's coming out in Fire's collection, so I think she will. Someday in the future, but not right now. Probably when they've come out with another OTT set, like Mystic Magus. Now that I've talked about Amaterasu, let's talk about Ohirume. Legion, obviously. Just so you know, when your opponent has a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, only once this unit may return 4 cards from the drop zone to the deck, and then search your deck for a specified card to perform Legion. So in other words, send 4 triggers back. Do your best. You can also send the Legion mate back if you Soul Blasted her. You can do any number of things, and it's just fantastic. Her second ability is what makes her pop. Counterblast 1, if this unit is in Legion, declare a card name and reveal the top card of your deck. If the revealed card is the card you declared, Soul Charge 2. In other words, you're ramping up Mega Blast really fast. Choose 2 cards from your damage zone and turn them face up. If the revealed card is a card with the same name as the one in your Vanguard circle, draw 2 cards. This ability cannot be used again. So in other words, so basically, it's, first off, the ability is free. Amaterasu's Soul Charge 1, look at the top card, works. Top or bottom. So in other words, let's say you see an Amaterasu at the top, you counterblast 1, Oh, look, it's CEO Amaterasu. Oh, look at that. Divination. Soul Charge 2. Choose 2 card. I think, I think you Soul Charge the card that you reveal. And that's interesting. I never noticed that before. And then choose up to 2 cards from your damage zone, unflip them, and then draw 2 cards. Fantastic. The problem with Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu was that she was too easily cock-blocked. You could block her, and all of a sudden her ability would be worthless. And she was a free plus. Well, kind of plus 2 for a plus on hit. And I think I'm oversimplifying that, but I'm pretty sure that's what she boils down to. With her, it's pretty strong. The problem is no Legion support. And Legion support is what makes a lot of Legions great. It's what was making Perdition Dragon, Gold Paladin. It's a set 17 grade, honestly. Not Star Vaders because a lot of their stuff doesn't require Legion, which is just fantastic. And when set 17 comes out, oh my, good ability. Don't know if I run her, but I'm certainly going to buy CEOs in the future. Just because I really like the card in general. And, it's one of those cards that really does need to be played. Can she be ridden in the, not her, but can CEO be ridden in a Mystical Magus deck? Not a Magus deck, but certainly with the Break Ride. But for different reasons. It's more like Counterblast. Sorry, you ride over it, you choose 3. You choose a card to Soul Charge, and you choose a card to look at the top. And then if you don't like any of them, you just put it at the bottom. If you like the card on the top, of course, you keep it. So, you have to choose worth and all that jazz. Is it the most efficient use of your Break Ride? No. Monica is. But, that's just my opinion. Now we have the Bermuda Legion Rising Star Droid. She's paired up with Riviere. Top Idol Riviere's ability was plus 1k if there's Riviere Grade 2. Riviere was one of the first Generation 3 ride chains with Spectral Duke and a few others. Basically, what it is you got a Grade 0, you ride a Grade 1, search top 7 for a Grade 2 or Grade 3. If you fail, you fail. And you lose a booster and, the potential for the ride chain. Or at least it decreases at a substantial rate. But if you succeed, you can choose a Grade 2 or Grade 3. If you don't ride the Grade 1, the Grade 0 goes to the back for a 4K booster. Which is, it's a free 4K booster. But with, Zeal, it suddenly turns into your Vanguard into 15K, which is bad. Especially since you're running Laurels, which are 4K themselves. So you're not hitting numbers by any stretch of the imagination. And she was also Counterblast 2. If it hits, discard a Top Idol Riviere. Give plus 5k to 3? 2? I think it's 3. 3 Bermuda triangles all around her. So in other words, you can't really let her hit ever because you run a crit heavy deck because you have to hit with the Vanguard first and then give power out. And, it's a lot of pressure. This combined with a ride chain, which as you ride the Grade 1 to Grade 2 and Grade 2 to Grade 3, you gain 2 cards. In other words, she's free to a plus, depending if you whiffed or not. And that's, even today, that kind of advantage is hard to match. The Link Joker ride chain was just a lock, Aqua Force was another attack, but none of them really matched the pluses that ride chain could put out. Even the Gen 2 ride chains don't really match it for all their consistency. The one that comes close is Duke, because you get kill 1 for 2 cards from the top of the deck. But the problem is it falls flat in that it could be triggers, but it could also be Grade 3s. And with Raptor Kernels, who was you summon stuff out, but you eat it later, and it's Raptors. So in other words, it's a 16k column. Anyway, I need to do a ride chain special sometime. Droid's ability is Legion 21,000 with Riviere, Counterblast 3 and choose 3 cards from your hand and discard them, At the end of the battle, that this card attacked a Vanguard unit attacked a Vanguard. If this unit is in Legion, you may pay the cost. If you do, stay in your Vanguard. This ability cannot be used until end of turn. In other words, you ride her, your Legion, you attack. Let's say you didn't hit. Even if you did, you do it anyway. You counter blast 3, and then you do it at 5 damage. So all of a sudden, Riviere hits 2, and that's 5k over here, and you're running crits. So in other words, all of a sudden your columns start turning from like 18k, because you're running the 11k attacker if there's 4 or more, and a 7k booster or 2, which does some abilities to give you even more pluses, or to power up your Vanguard some more. And all of a sudden they go from 18 to 28, 33 crit 2. And that's impressive. And that's just assuming you get 1 crit. When this unit rides a unit named Super Idol Riviere, in other words a grade 2, search your deck for Top Idol Riviere and reveal it to your opponent. Put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. In other words, it's a +1, and it paves the way for Persona Blast because you're going to Legion too, right? You better Legion. Fantastic card, just fantastic. Again, the problem is that both these two don't have as much Legion support as, say, this guy does because he runs off of Seekers. Because, here's the impressive thing about Legion. Because most of the Legions were archetypes, they decided that most of the cards that support Legion itself do not rely on archetypes. Some do. But things like Perdition Dragonite Nasal, he doesn't actually need a Perdition card in the Vanguard circle to work. And a lot of them don't. In fact, the reason why Kokoro is going to be really great is because you can step off of the re-standards, the archetypes, and start really working with some of the old retire stuff, like with Eclipse or a few others. That's really going to be impressive. And Royal Paladins are the same. Some of the cards don't require Legion and still get power. Other ones do. Let's talk about this guy. Legion 21,000 with King of Knights Alfred. Alfred hasn't survived the ages very well. He hits 20k, but he can't be boosted. There are ways you can get around it and ways you can keep efficiency, like with Maiden of the Lake Leon, tap, discard a card, draw a card. But at the same time, it doesn't have the pizzazz it had anymore. Back in the day, it was a $20 card, and I mean back in like set 8. I remember set 9, set 10 coming out, and we were hoping we could get an Alfred in a set 1 box, and now not so much. And it's his price is probably kept aloft by the fact that he is such a famous card. But his ability is he gets plus 2k when for every card in the rearguard circle, and he gets counterblast 3, summon a grade 2 or less rearguard. Anyone grade 2 or less. And that's good, and that was good back in the day. It was a plus. It was a solid no minus plus, no restrictions plus, because you don't really want to summon out a grade 3. You do for deck thingy and other purposes, but not as badly as you need some of the grade 2s that were out that could really help you, especially the boosters. Palamedes Alfred was a great combination back in the day, and you want to get Toy Poogles to turn your Palamedes into 22k bruisers, because Alfred can only hit 20k. So it was just a 15k 2 pass. But Palamedes, with a crit, was 2 10ks at least, or Perfect Shield more than likely. His ability, by the way, these guys' abilities synergize almost perfectly. Soul Blast 2, and choose a card with the same name as a unit from the Vanguard. In other words, Persona Blast. Soul Blast 2 and Legion Persona Blast. If this unit is in Legion, search your deck for up to 1 grade 0, grade 1, grade 2 card. Call them to separate rearguard circles and shuffle your deck. In other words, a friend of mine suggested Barkle. Really, it could be anybody. Keep another grade 0 around that can do something. Not a Wingle per se, but something Wingle Brave, but something that can do something impressively. Now, here's what Legion comes in. A lot of the Seeker Legion cards don't require Seekers. Some do. But a lot of them all of a sudden turn themselves into 11k boosters or 13k attackers. And that's very interesting, because all of a sudden, where Alfred sort of fell flat was that the rearguard columns weren't as great as they should be unless you got Palamedes out. Palamedes used to be a $20 card for a 13k attacker when there's another grade 3. You know, he works with almost everybody in some way, shape, or form, unless they require an archetype, which is, in other words, Jewel Knights and Seekers. Palamedes works here in the sense that he's automatically 13k. Anything that requires a grade 3, 2 grade 3s in Vanguard, the Palamedes, grade 2 and grade 3s, Toy Poogle, a few other ones I just can't remember the name of, but I looked at them earlier, automatically go off. If the number of grade 3s in your Vanguard circle or rearguard circle or your front row or 2 or more, this gets plus 3k. All of a sudden, 11k attackers. This combined with the Legion grade 1s for, I know there's one that gets plus 4k if it's summoned out with Legion. I know there's another one that gets pluses when you Legion. So in other words, how you play your deck, all of a sudden, you can Counterblast 3, Soul Blast 2 for 4 cards. A plus 4 to field. Beautiful. And if you need Soul, re-ride him, summon out another Alfred, because you can put him back with Legion. And it's just gravy. It's just fantastic. And by the way, can't be boosted, but he's an automatic 31k, because, guess what? You, when he's in Legion, by the way, guess what? You can refill your field with him. Straight up. From almost no cards from your hand. Soul Blast 2, Counterblast 3, you get at least 4. He'll be hitting for 29k. Guaranteed once you use his ability. And sure, you lose a grade 0, but if you play your cards right, that grade 0 will be a plus to you, and not a trigger from the deck. Alright then. I'm definitely making this deck. I've got 4 Alfreds. I don't need Blaster Blades or anything like that. Maybe an Akane or 2 for Ringull. Toy Poogles. But this guy is just fantastic. And he made me love Royal Paladins again. Royal Paladins was my very first deck. Played a Blaster Blade trial deck that I upgraded time and time again until I went into Bermudas. And this thing, you know, like, it's going to be great. Every deck I make it sort of, you know, I make it sort of like with the ideal in mind. I've got a bunch of decks that I'm sort of constantly reworking as I'm unhappy with them. Shadow Paladins I haven't touched since Raging Form. Star Vaders, Link Joker I mess around with a bit. But, you know, it's a fun deck I keep updated. You know, and every time something new comes out, something like these comes out, it ignites a fire within me, and I get to create a deck. Ohirume does not make me want to skip up Monica Magus. By the way, it's not really based on the... It's not really based on the archetypes. It's just Break Ride plus Monica, because Monica doesn't require anything but a Persona Blast. And this one is great. Probably make me play Riviere. But at the same time, I'm having too much fun with Lena, Vert, and a few other ones. But this one, as soon as he comes out, and I hope he comes out soon, certainly in January, you know, when Seekers, or maybe even a bit after, maybe for the summer, you know, I want him, and I want to play him, and I want to play the Seeker stuff with him, because it's just going to be so fun. It's going to be pluses all day, and it's going to be all the right pluses, because here's what Royal Paladins do best, better than anyone else, is that they keep their pluses. Gold Paladins put things at the bottom of the deck that you may never see again. Shadow Paladins eat their own, but Royal Paladins are a band of brothers, and once they're out in the field, there ain't nothing that's going to stop them, except for maybe Eradicators or Novell, but hey, guess what? Counterblast 3, Soul Blast 2, I'm good. Alright then, this has been another exciting State of Play, number 4. Next week, let's see here, I'll be giving you guys that Murakumo Tamano deck that I've been talking about, and I'll be doing 3 more Legions and some promos, I think. Certainly look forward to, you know, when I get the resources to make my Bermuda deck, the Mega Colony Special, which I'm planning, as well as, you know, the Set 15 reviews, and a few other things. Alright then. Have a nice evening, everybody.